Seated in the courtroom before everyone, she smiles. She smiles without concern, smiles as if she carried no guilt at all. But when she realizes there will be no escape, she collapses, and what was once a light smile turns into pure despair. This is the story of Jennifer Mee, and how she ended up standing before this jury is what you are about to discover now. To understand this case, we need to go back a bit in time. For weeks, all of America heard the same sound. A short hiccup, repetitive, uncontrollable, and that hiccup would become one of the most recognizable sounds in the country in 2007. The sound came from a thin teenage girl with a shy smile and tired eyes, Jennifer Mee. She was only 15 years old when it all began. A normal morning, science class, the first class of the day. Out of nowhere, the hiccups started. At first, giggles. Some classmates found it funny. Jennifer did too. 1 hour passed. 2. The day ended. The hiccups did not. That night, Jennifer couldn't sleep. The next day, she couldn't eat. Before long, she was hiccuping about 50 times per minute for hours at a time, without stopping.
Friday night when that news broke, I just, that she had gone.
Her body began to fail. Chest pain, throat spasms, back pain, extreme exhaustion. What seemed like a school curiosity quickly turned into a medical nightmare. Doctors didn't know what to do. Normal tests. Clean scans. No explanation. That's when the media showed up. First a local station, then another. Soon national programs. Jennifer began being introduced as the girl who won't stop hiccuping. The nickname came quickly, Hiccup Girl, and with it, something Jennifer had never experienced before: attention. Cameras, lights, travel, interviews. She went from an anonymous patient to a national sensation. While the country sympathized with her suffering, Jennifer discovered something powerful. When everyone was looking at her, she existed. And she existed for real. People wanted to hear her, meet her, help her. Celebrities expressed support. She met famous singers, appeared on major TV shows, and was treated like someone special. For a few months, the world revolved around Jennifer Mee's hiccups. Then, just as it came, it was gone. After countless attempts, medications, therapies, strange methods sent by strangers, the hiccups stopped. The condition disappeared almost as mysteriously as it had begun. Jennifer returned to school. Life, in theory, could move on, but something had changed. When the sound stopped, the cameras shut off. When the hiccups ended, the phones stopped ringing. And the silence that remained was deafening. Jennifer never went back to being just a normal teenager. At least not on the inside. According to her own family, she had always been sweet, caring, protective of her younger siblings. But she was also extremely impressionable. She wanted to please. She wanted to belong. She wanted to be accepted, especially after tasting fame. When the family moved from Vermont to Florida, everything changed even faster. New place, new friends, new attitude. Jennifer began distancing herself from her family, confronting her stepfather, acting tougher, more respected. At one point, she even ran away from home. Her name appeared in local newspapers because of it. It was the beginning of a quiet and dangerous transformation. It was in Florida that Jennifer met Lamont Newton. Lamont wasn't just a boyfriend. He was a gateway. A new world. New people. Drugs. Conversations about easy money. A reality where Jennifer was no longer the hiccup girl, but someone who could be useful. Important. In 2010, Jennifer was 19 years old. And for the first time since the fame ended, she felt like she belonged to something. Even if that something existed on the wrong side of the law. It was also in 2010 that she met Shannon Griffin. Shannon was 22 years old. He had come from Mississippi after Hurricane Katrina devastated his region. He liked football. He had plans. Family. Friends. A future that night, he believed was beginning in a simple way. A date. Shannon met Jennifer online. They talked. Exchanged messages. To him, it seemed clear it was a date. He told his cousin, got ready, put on cologne, grabbed his scooter, and headed to St. Petersburg, believing he was going to meet a famous, friendly girl, and maybe someone special. Jennifer, on the other hand, told a different story. She would later claim that everything was just a drug transaction, that Shannon only wanted to buy marijuana, that there was no romantic atmosphere at all. But one thing is undeniable: it was Jennifer who contacted him. It was Jennifer who set up the meeting. It was Jennifer who led him to the location. An empty house, a dark alley, a strange place for a first date. Jennifer walked with Shannon to the entrance of the alley. pointed toward the back, saying that the guys were there. And then she left. What happened in the next few minutes would change dozens of lives forever. There was an approach, a demand for money, a confrontation. Shannon resisted. He was stronger than they expected. At some point, a gun appeared. 6 shots. 4 hit Shannon Griffin's body. 3 to the chest. He died right there. Alone. In an alley. Convinced he was going on a date. All of it for $50. While Shannon's body cooled on the ground, Jennifer was on the other side of the city, panicking. The clothes were thrown into bleach. The victim's wallet hidden in an air duct. The group didn't sleep that night. And just a few hours later, Jennifer made a phone call. A call that would change everything. On the other end of the line, her mother answered. Confused. Worried. Why are you in jail? For first-degree murder. Who did you kill? No one, but I set everything up. Those words would echo in a courtroom years later. And they would seal Jennifer Mee's fate.
The boy thought of it to the little alley thing.
But at that moment, sitting in a cell, she still believed something dangerous. That her story, her fame, her past as the hiccup girl, could save her. At first, no one looked at Jennifer Mee as a suspect. When police arrived at the crime scene in the early hours of that October morning, what they saw was a classic scenario. A dark alley in downtown St. Petersburg, a young man shot to death, signs of a struggle, a gun abandoned on the ground. For investigators, everything pointed to 2 common possibilities, a drug deal gone wrong or a poorly planned robbery. Jennifer didn't fit that picture. She was the girl who had become famous for hiccuping nonstop, a former nationally known teenager, thin, young, with no criminal record. To the officers, she looked more like a peripheral witness than someone directly involved. At first, she knew that too. When Jennifer sat down in front of investigators, her posture was that of someone who believed she was still in control. She spoke softly, seemed nervous, but not desperate. She chose her words carefully. And above all, she lied. Her first version was simple and convenient. Shannon had gotten involved with the girlfriend of one of the guys. The crime had been motivated by jealousy, a personal conflict that spiraled out of control. Jennifer placed herself as someone who was there, but not part of it. It was a fragile story, but at that moment, it was enough to create doubt. Except the police had something Jennifer didn't: time and patience. As investigators crossed messages, phone records, and statements, a pattern began to emerge. Shannon was not involved with anyone. There was no love triangle at all. What existed was a sequence of clear, direct messages, Jennifer setting up a meeting. She was the one who chose the location. She was the one who made the connection. And she was the one who disappeared at the exact moment. Little by little, Jennifer's narrative began to crack. Confronted with inconsistencies, she changed her version. She admitted that drugs were involved. She admitted that she knew something would happen to Shannon. But she insisted on one crucial point. She didn't know about the gun. She didn't know someone would die. She had no idea it would get out of control. That line of defense was not random. Jennifer knew very well where she was stepping. In Florida, there is a harsh and unforgiving rule. If you participate in serious crime, like a robbery, and someone dies during that crime, everyone involved can be charged with murder. Even the one who didn't pull the trigger. Even the one who wasn't present at the exact moment of death. Jennifer knew that. And still, there was something she didn't fully understand: the weight of her own words. While she was being interrogated, police already had the recording of the jail call she made to her mother. A raw conversation, without lawyers, without strategy, without filters. How can they charge you with murder if you didn't kill anyone? Because I set everything up. For a prosecutor, that wasn't just a sentence. It was a confession. When that recording was presented, any attempt by Jennifer to distance herself from the crime lost strength. It wasn't the police interpreting her actions. It wasn't a detective applying pressure. It was her herself, speaking freely, admitting her central role. From that moment on, the case changed level. Jennifer stopped being the impressionable girl who was in the wrong place. She began to be seen as the key piece, the gear without which the crime simply would not have happened. The prosecutor was direct. If you removed Jennifer from the equation, Shannon Griffin would still be alive. The defense tried to react. They tried to build the image of a manipulated young woman. A girl easily influenced, dominated by her boyfriend, led to participate in something she didn't fully understand. They alleged psychological problems. They mentioned possible mental disorders. They tried to connect her past hiccups to neurological conditions. None of it stuck. Experts ruled out schizophrenia. Jennifer was considered fully capable of understanding her actions. And for the jury, one fact became impossible to ignore. She lured Shannon to that alley under false promises. Meanwhile, Jennifer's behavior in court began to bother people. At certain moments, she seemed detached. At others, she laughed nervously, whispered, made expressions that, to those watching, felt out of place given the brutality of what was being judged. For the victim's family, that was unbearable. Shannon Griffin was no longer there to tell his version. His mother, seated in the gallery, watched the young woman who led her son to his death appear, in her eyes, more concerned with herself than with the life that had been destroyed. The prosecution exploited that without mercy. They showed photos of Shannon, talked about his childhood, about Hurricane Katrina, about the effort to restart his life, about the last phone call he made to his family, saying he was going on a date that never existed. And then came the proposal. Faced with the strength of the evidence, Jennifer's attorney tried to negotiate a deal. 15 years in prison. After that, maybe freedom. A chance to start over someday. The state refused. Don't come to us with anything below 25 years. Jennifer did not accept. She believed the jury would not have the courage to sentence the hiccup girl to life in prison. She believed her youth, her story, her public image would weigh in her favor. It was a gamble that put her entire life at stake. The courtroom was full on the day the trial entered its decisive phase. It was not just another criminal case. It was a silent spectacle of tension. Journalists occupied the front rows. Shannon Griffin's family sat stiffly, almost motionless, as if any movement could break the little emotional control they still had left. On the other side, Jennifer Mee watched everything with an expression difficult to define. It wasn't exactly coldness, but it also didn't look like remorse. It was something in between. A detachment. For the prosecution, that was the moment to dismantle, piece by piece, the last defense Jennifer was still trying to hold on to, that she did not intend for anyone to die. The prosecutor began at the beginning. Not with the shot, not with the alley, but with the internet. Messages were displayed on large screens. Seemingly ordinary conversations. Jennifer speaking with Shannon in a casual, friendly way. Setting up meetings. Building trust. Nothing there indicated danger. Nothing suggested a threat. On the contrary, everything looked too safe. She did not take him to that place by accident, said the prosecutor. She took him there because she needed him there. The defense tried to react. Argued that Jennifer was not the mastermind, just a participant. That Lamont Newton was the real leader. That Lauren Rayford was armed. That Jennifer did not pull the trigger. The prosecutor did not disagree. She didn't pull the trigger, he replied. She pulled the strings. That sentence echoed through the courtroom. The prosecution explained something fundamental to the jury. Crimes like that do not begin with a gunshot. They begin with planning, with choosing a victim, with deliberate deception. And Jennifer was present at every one of those stages. She chose Shannon. She chose the location. She knew there would be a robbery. She knew there was risk. And even so, she continued. When the phone call with her mother was played again, the atmosphere changed. There was no editing. There was no interpretation. Just Jennifer's voice, raw and unfiltered, saying, "Because I set everything up." Some jurors looked away. Others furrowed their brows. That sentence did not sound like confusion. It sounded like awareness. The defense tried to minimize it. Said Jennifer was in shock. That she didn't know what she was saying. That the sentence could not be used as a full confession. But the damage was already done. Then came the testimony no one in the courtroom would forget. A young woman entered the courtroom. Her name was not famous. There were no headlines about her. But her presence carried enormous weight. She had survived an almost identical crime, orchestrated by the same people, weeks earlier. She told how she met Jennifer online, how she was lured to a meeting, how she realized too late that something was wrong, how she managed to escape by inches. As she spoke, Jennifer remained still. But for the first time since the trial began, something changed on her face. It was not fear. It was irritation, as if that witness were breaking a silent agreement. For the jury, that story destroyed any argument of an accident. It was not an isolated event. It was not a mistake. It was a pattern. The prosecution then asked the question that sealed everything. If this had worked again, would there be another victim? There was no answer. In the closing argument, the prosecutor was direct, almost clinical. He did not raise his voice. He did not appeal to tears. This case is not about fame, is not about hiccups, is not about television. It is about a young woman who believed she could play with human lives and walk away. The defense, in its final effort, asked for mercy, spoke of Jennifer's age, of her immaturity, of her unusual past, asked the jury not to define her by a single mistake. But for many there, it did not look like a single mistake. It looked like a sequence of choices. The jury withdrew to deliberate. They were hours that felt like days. Jennifer waited seated, fidgeting with her hands, exchanging quick glances with her attorney. Shannon's family remained in absolute silence. There were no spoken prayers, only expectation. When the jury returned, the judge asked everyone to stand. The verdict was read slowly. Guilty of first-degree murder. Guilty of armed robbery. Guilty of conspiracy. There were no screams. There were no fainting spells. Just a collective sigh that swept through the courtroom. Jennifer remained seated. No tears. No collapse. Just a fixed stare forward, as if she were trying to understand, in that exact second, that her gamble had failed. In the sentencing phase, the judge was relentless. You lured an innocent young man to his death. Without you, this crime would not have happened. Society needs to be protected from people who demonstrate this level of disregard for human life. The sentence was pronounced, life in prison, without the possibility of parole. Jennifer was 19 years old. As she was handcuffed, the Hiccup girl officially ceased to exist. There were no more TV programs. There was no more public curiosity. Just a number in the prison system. But for Shannon's family, that was not the end. Because no sentence brings a son back. Inside the Florida prison system, Jennifer stopped being the Hiccup girl and became just another inmate sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. A definitive fate. A final period that allows no emotional revisions or second chances. In the first months, reports indicate that Jennifer showed difficulty accepting the sentence. In letters and monitored conversations, she still insisted that she had been misunderstood. That she never intended to kill anyone. That she was paying for a mistake that spiraled out of control. But as the years passed, that narrative lost strength. The reality of life imprisonment is cruelly simple. Time does not work in favor of those who have no release date. Seasons pass. Governments change. The world moves on. But the days inside the walls are all the same. Jennifer began living a silent routine. Prison work. Little outside contact. No media presence. No serious attempt at appeal with real chances of success. The system had spoken, and spoken loudly. Outside, Shannon Griffin's family tried to rebuild a life that would never be complete. For Shannon's mother, the sentence brought no relief. It only closed a legal chapter. The grief continued. In later interviews, she made it clear that she was not seeking revenge. She was seeking recognition of the truth. Her son was deceived, lured, and killed by people who never showed real remorse. She did not seem sad for what she did, she once said. She seemed sad only because she got caught. That perception echoed among many who followed the trial. The case of Jennifer Mee became an object of study in universities, legal debates, and psychological analyses. Not only because of the crime itself, but because of the brutal contrast between public image and private conduct. How was a young woman who experienced fame so early, interviews, applause, attention, capable of participating in something so violent? Leave your opinion in the comments, and we will see each other soon.